Chapter 32.
As they ventured into the chamber's eerie embrace, Draco Malfoy narrowed his eyes warily at the peculiar growth sprawling beneath their feet. His upbringing at Malfoy Manor had imbued him with a sensible wariness of any flora that appeared mysterious, and these tangled vines certainly seemed suspect. Ron Weasley descended clumsily, crumpling to the ground beside Harry Potter with a thud. "What's this stuff?" he groaned, rubbing a sore elbow.
No idea, mate.
"Looks like a plant of some sort, probably here to catch us from a fall."
Come on, Hermione.
Harry prompted. "What is it with you Gryffindors jumping into things without a clue? We should figure out what this plant is before landing on it," Draco insisted. Hermione Granger, however, had already leapfrogged into the area, her sudden presence offering Draco an inexplicable sense of calm, despite his dislike for her reckless plunge. She brushed the scattered strands of turquoise hair from her face, deflecting his question with, "Turquoises bring mental clarity, Draco, and someone has to keep clear-headed with you yelling from up there." Ron nodded vigorously. "Yeah, you were loud enough for us to think about waking the dog." "My ears haven't stopped ringing," Harry complained, scanning their landing zone with an observant gaze. "We must be deep underground," Hermione said, assessing the surroundings. "Lucky this plant thing's here to cushion us," Ron remarked, though Draco noticed something unsettling brushing his knee. Hermione tore herself away toward a nearby wall of damp stone. The plant had begun to snake its tendrils around her ankles as soon as she landed. Meanwhile, long creepers had fastened unnoticed to the boy's legs. Oh, terrific. A lovely creeping menace from a trapdoor that's supposed to keep nosy intruders at bay, as Gryffindors feared venturing less than death itself. "I knew that plant was dubious," Draco protested sharply. "Shut up, Malfoy." Harry shot back, frustration plain in his voice. "Maybe we'd have figured something out sooner if you hadn't been screeching." With determined expertise, Hermione slipped free of the viney grasp, leaving Draco to observe with some awe and frustration as she deftly freed herself. The three boys continued their futile struggle against tightening creepers. "Stop wriggling," Hermione called out, regaining her poise. "It's Devil's Snare." Draco had never heard of such a thing, though its name sounded terribly ominous, like one of the dungeons at his family's estate. "Lovely. That name's a big help," Ron grumbled, trying to lean away from the tendrils closing in on his neck. "Quiet. I need to think of how to defeat it," Hermione snapped. Draco grappled for his wand, lifting his arm above the encircling vines, his mind too groggy to formulate any spell. "Come on, hurry. I can hardly breathe." Harry choked out desperately, and Draco's own urgency peaked anew. "Devil's Snare. It prefers darkness and dampness." "Then use fire," bellowed Harry, his arms restrained by the creeping tendrils. Draco struggled, his own chance to act slipping away as the vines immobilized him completely. "Of course, but we need wood," Hermione fretted, hands in agitation. "Have you gone daft?" Ron shouted. "Aren't you a witch?" Draco exploded with laughter despite the peril, as Hermione had a sudden realization. Oh, right. Brandishing her wand, she conjured a blaze of bluebell flames to subdue the malign plant's clutches. As warmth and light spread, the constricting vines unraveled from the boys' bodies, and they extracted themselves from the trap. "Good thing you had your wits about you in herbology, Hermione," Harry said, joining her near the wall with a relieved chuckle. "Yeah," added Ron, mockingly reminding her, "lucky Potter doesn't lose his nerve, thinking we'd need actual wood." "You all right, Malfoy?" Draco had just managed to retrieve his wand from a mud-filled pocket, considering briefly the possibility, then opting not to bother, of cleaning it. "Guessing my advice doesn't count for much, huh?" Draco sneered, more at himself than anyone else. Harry shot Draco an exasperated look. Well then, for someone who's supposed to be such a capable spellcaster, Maybe throwing out a few spells wouldn't hurt. Enough, boys, Hermione interrupted, gesturing for them to move along. As they journeyed the passage, water trickled ominously from above. Draco battled the nagging anxiety in sync with each dripping cadence. Ron whispered, startling him so profoundly he nearly collided with Harry. "You hear that?" Draco rolled his eyes, biting back a curse, until he realized Ron was right. Faint rustling and the tinkling of unidentifiable objects hovered ahead. Could it be a ghost? Surely not, Potter. Any competent ghost wouldn't waste its grace as a deterrent. Sounds like the flapping of wings to me. I see light at the end. Something's moving. They emerged from the corridor's shadows into a chamber ablaze with brilliance. Its towering ceiling was decorated with vibrant, darting creatures, a swirling mass of radiant birds. Across the room lay a door of significant weight and wooden construction. "Think they'll attack if we just trot through?" Ron speculated. "What's the point if not?" Draco murmured sarcastically. "Most likely," Harry mused, "they don't seem vicious. But if they swarmed us all at once? We should try it, though. I'll go first." Let him be the trailblazer. With a stealing breath, Harry charged forth, covering his face defensively. Despite the potential threat, the birds paid him no mind as he reached the door and, finding it locked, fiddled fruitlessly with its handle. Draco hesitated, mentally bracing against the idea that the birds might take an unwelcome fancy to him instead of Harry, but they showed no interest as he joined the others in futile tugging efforts. Hermione's impressive Alohomora yielded no success either. "Know any unlocking spells, Draco?" He grimaced. "Many of those call for blood, though none we'd volunteer." "What's next?" Ron sighed, fully aware many sinister charms might demand a more gruesome unlock. "These birds," Hermione pondered, casting a gaze aloft. "They're not mere decoration." Draco followed her stare, silently regretting his disregard for lessons in magical creatures. "Keys." "They're keys," Harry declared with excitement. "This means—" His eyes swept the room until they found the answer. "Broomsticks. Must get the key for this door." Something akin to a Quidditch challenge. How suspiciously ripe for Harry's skill. But there are hundreds up there. Ron scrutinized the lock. Big, old-fashioned, most likely silver like the handle. Seizing broomsticks, the trio leapt skyward into the flurry of keys, grasping at objects that twisted evasively. Draco's seeker instincts flicked in, capturing several keys, showing them to Ron, who shook his head with each. Harry, naturally, excelled in their aerial hunt. Spotting the singular key with distinct features, a big, worn silver key sporting crumpled blue wings, Harry declared their target. Ron rocketed off, only to careen painfully off beams. "Easy does it, Weasley." Draco hollered in exasperation. "Potter will handle it." "Not alone." Harry snapped back across the wind. "We'll work together." Draco, head over at Ron. Hermione, stay lower to prevent escape. I'm going to catch it. Ready, go. Awkward in the air, Ron and Hermione maneuvered as instructed, while Draco, reluctant to admit fault, bolstered their paradigm. Potter took the lead with characteristic flair, cornering their elusive quarry against the stone and catching the key triumphantly amid cheers. Seeing Potter's success, Draco cheered too, albeit with self-conscious reluctance. There it was, his default behavior, evaluating danger as if frozen in place or seeking a convenient escape. Once he'd thought himself bold in the Forbidden Forest, but without the centaurs intervening, who knew how long cowardice would have frozen him there, just as it did now. Absent premeditated plots, Draco Malfoy faced a grim reminder of his limitations. Draco Malfoy had always found refuge in his passivity. Just like that pivotal moment atop the astronomy tower, paralyzed as he watched Dumbledore confronted by Death Eaters, too helpless to act, too indecisive to choose sides. Meanwhile, those around him fell, victims of his inaction, Yet Draco somehow survived, unscathed. How long could this luck possibly hold? As Draco touched down alongside his companions, he aggressively shook off the suffocating weight of self-reproach. Harry Potter focused solely on the mission, intently fitting a rebelling key into the lock. Freed, the key fluttered away disdainfully, rather unlike the snitches that usually adored Potter's touch. "Ready?" Potter queried, and Draco, forcing compliance, bobbed his head along with the others. They watched as Potter swung the door wide. Light flooded in to reveal a massive, ominous chessboard filling the room. Draco's stomach churned. He despised chess. His father often emphasized its strategic value, but to Draco, the game was a headache incarnate. A dull throb began, spurred by the sight of black chessmen standing, rigid stone soldiers, and the featureless, white pieces facing them. "What's the plan now?" Potter's voice was barely a murmur. "It's clear, isn't it?" piped up Ron Weasley. "We need to play our way across." Another exit stood beyond the white pieces. This challenging scene twisted the innocence of a children's game into sinister proportions. Only one gnawing uncertainty lingered. Was death the penalty for losing?
How?
Hermione Granger whispered anxiously. Impulsively, Draco gave her hand a reassuring squeeze, half convincing himself he did it for her sake, though knowing full well it was for his own. "Looks like," Weasley speculated, "we need to be the chessmen." Approaching a black knight, Weasley rested his hand on the horse's flanks. The statue sprang to life, the knight's helmeted head swiveling to meet his gaze. "Do we, join you to get across?" With a succinct nod, the Black Knight confirmed. Weasley turned toward them, pondering aloud. "This needs some thought. I guess 4 of us take over as chess pieces." Silence ensued as the group watched Weasley plot their moves. "Now, don't feel bad," he eventually said. "Harry, Hermione, you're not the best at chess. Malfoy." Utterly dismal, Draco confessed swiftly. Even their house elves reportedly could outwit him in chess. "Leave it to you, Weasley." "No offense taken," Potter assured him. "Just guide us." "All right, Harry, assume the bishop's role. Malfoy, that pawn over there on the left is yours, and Hermione, you take over that rook." "And you?" "I'll play as a knight," Weasley announced grandly. Despite the precarious situation, Draco couldn't resist a smirk. "Champion of the Chivalrous Order, Sir Ronald the Redhead. A title none of your siblings have, no doubt. Ever been a knight?" Draco teased. But rather than a retort, Weasley beamed broadly.
No, none of them have."
Seemingly attuned to their conversation, the chessmen relinquished their positions. A knight, a bishop, a rook, and a pawn vacated their posts, inviting the human players forward. "White moves first in chess," Ron observed, surveying the board. "See, look at that." A white pawn inched forward 2 spaces. Ron instructed Draco to advance, countering the move, stirrings of doubt simmering as he questioned every choice made that put his life in the hands of Ron Weasley. Every step followed Weasley's master plan. It was seamless until, suddenly, one of their knights was felled, crushed to bits by the ruthless White Queen. It was dragged off the stage of battle, lying inert and grim in the shadows. "Had to sacrifice him," mumbled Weasley, voice trembling but resolute. "Hermione, that leaves you to capture the bishop, quickly now." For each piece they lost, the ruthless, white adversaries meted out vicious retribution. Soon a cluster of fallen black warriors ominously sprawled along the wall, and Draco couldn't help but envision human bodies, perhaps his own, or even Harry's, in that pitiable stance. Twice, Weasley saved them from peril merely at the last heartbeat, slipping across the board with instinctive precision, edging ever closer toward conquest. "We're on the brink," he whispered suddenly, tension lacing through his words. "I need to survey." The White Queen swiveled with alarming precision to face him squarely. Yes, Ron muttered quietly. Only one option? I'll have to be taken.
Mm.
Harry and Hermione cried out simultaneously. Draco knew then his presence was the wrench in the former Triumph's clockwork. Originally, there were 3 pieces, not 4. The meticulous strategy should have succeeded flawlessly. But with Draco added to the formula, the Red Line's first casualty was about to be chalked out. Ron Weasley. That's chess. Ron argued sharply, while Draco's gaze darted helplessly to find any underestimated escape. We must sometimes sacrifice pieces, Weasley reasoned urgently. I'll let her take me. Free yourself to checkmate, Harry. But Gryffindors, Draco scoffed dramatically. He had to grip their attention, for any loss among them meant the collapse of the sequence leading to victory. Would they really endorse Weasley's sacrifice? Ever consider a swap, a person for a piece aboard the board? Draco proposed. Granger's gaze darted around swiftly, blanching further. No, Draco. If it were possible, there's no second Black Knight, she realized, her thoughts racing but unable to conjure the extant off-board pieces into motion. No other piece functions as a knight either? Potter queried, though the answer lay in Weasley's reluctant nod. He is not a knight, Draco retorted, exasperated. He's human, occupying a knight's station. Could someone else fill his place, mimic the knight's movements? The trio exchanged glances full of uncertainty. Yet Draco moved with purpose, striding toward Weasley's square unaware of breaking rules, stepping aside as if viewing events from a pensive. The board did not acknowledge his drift, dismissing any pawn logic. A knight's movement it was not. Unsure it would succeed, Draco's intent remained clear. Action unlike any others. Draco. Weasley peered astonished from his space alongside Draco. Why stand here? Hazardous as abandoning his own tile was, Draco reached Weasley, somehow assured of success. What do you presume, Weasley? Draco retorted tersely. Can't you see how this puzzle may be solved? Head to my position. Weasley lingered. Apparently, humans can exchange places. Take the pawn's post, Sir Ronald. Though you forfeit your knighthood, life's gambits favor survival. Draco. Hermione's cries rose, imbued with desperate urgency. Draco. He had articulated the reason once before. To substitute for Weasley, Draco explained coolly. Need I spell it out in clearer terms? Were Gryffindors that vacuous? More than raw talent demands, not squandering time idolizing, lest obstruct this mission. Draco, said Weasley helplessly. Are you taking my place? It stands to reason, Draco snapped, dismissing silence, shrouding Potter, Granger. They rely on you, me? Worthless. Untrue, Hermione shouted passionately. Caught in the sweep of things, Draco resigned himself as he took Weasley's tile, distancing icons from dreams. Weasley, Draco spat, resolute. Heroism is far from me. Potter needs you, step aside. For in the narrative's heart it was you, untouched of its creator by my disgrace. Take my space, master the game, assure your prize, promise not to soul make despair drawn longer than brief. Care once won not absolutely, won't deviate Quirrell's resolve of murder. Draco, Ron reiterated, visage warped in disbelief. Even like me? None of you particularly, Draco affirmed, nudging him clear of his post. He stumbled, half in disbelief, to claim the vacated pawn's space. Draco, Potter cried suddenly. Draco, hear me? Silence, Potter. Draco commanded, eyes ahead. He took 2 strides forward, 1 to the side. With a swift motion, the Alabaster Queen advanced. All that registered in his mind was Granger's piercing cry before the rigid limb made its final, brutal descent.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this chapter, please hit the subscribe button and ring the bell to stay updated with more audiobooks. Happy listening!